Harlem, New York. March 5, 1968. 2:30 p.m. Bumpy Johnson sat in his study on the second floor of his brownstone on West 147th Street. He was 62 years old, dying, congestive heart failure. The doctors had given him maybe 6 months. His body was failing. His empire had already passed to younger men. His era was ending. He spent most days like this, sitting in his chair, reading newspapers, watching Harlem through his window, waiting for death, not afraid of it, just tired, ready. He'd lived a full life, a violent life, a complicated life, but a life that mattered. That counted for something. At 2:35 p.m., someone knocked on his door. His wife, Frances, answered. Bumpy heard voices downstairs, a young man asking to see him, urgent, important. Please. Frances came upstairs. There's a boy here, Malcolm Wright. Says he needs to talk to you. Says it's life or death. Bumpy knew the name. Malcolm Wright, 22 years old. Good kid from what Bumpy had heard. Stayed out of trouble. Worked at a grocery store on Lenox Avenue. Had a younger brother named David, 17. Still in high school. Had. Send him up, Bumpy said. Malcolm walked into the study. Young, dressed neatly despite obvious poverty. Clean shirt, pressed pants. Shoes that had been polished but were worn through at the heels. But his eyes were wrong, red from crying, burning with rage. The eyes of someone who'd crossed a line and couldn't see the way back. Mr. Johnson, thank you for seeing me. Sit down, son. Tell me what happened. Malcolm sat. His hands were shaking. They killed my brother 4 days ago, David. He was 17. He owed money, $5,000. To some Italian guys running numbers in East Harlem. David gambled. Got in over his head. Couldn't pay. They killed him. Beat him to death in an alley. Left him there like garbage. Bumpy's expression didn't change. He'd heard stories like this 1,000 times. Young men who thought they could gamble their way to wealth, who borrowed from people you should never borrow from, who learned too late that debts in the underworld are paid in cash or blood. I'm sorry about your brother. I don't want your sympathy, Mr. Johnson. I want your help. What kind of help? I want revenge. I want to kill the men who killed David. But they're connected. Italian mob. If I go after them alone, they'll kill me. If I bring my friends, they'll kill all of us. But if you help me, if you talk to your contacts, if you arrange a meeting, give me a chance to face them. That's all I'm asking. Just a chance. Bumpy looked at this young man, saw himself 40 years ago. Young, angry, full of rage and pain, and the absolute certainty that violence was the answer, that revenge would somehow make things right, would somehow balance the scales, would somehow fill the hole that death had carved into his chest. You know who I am, Bumpy said. It wasn't a question. Yes, sir. Everyone in Harlem knows who you are. You're Bumpy Johnson. You ran Harlem for 40 years. You stood up to the Italians. You protected our community. You're a legend. You know what I did to become a legend. You fought. You killed people who threatened us. That's part of it. But you know what else I did? I survived. For 40 years, I survived in a business where most men die young. You know why I survived? Malcolm didn't answer. I survived because I learned when to fight and when to walk away. I learned that revenge is expensive, costs more than money, costs your life, your future, your soul. Every man I ever killed, justified or not, took something from me, left a mark, made me a little bit less human, a little bit more monster. They killed my brother, I know, and I'm sorry, truly. But killing them won't bring David back. I don't care. I can't let them get away with it. I can't just do nothing. Bumpy was quiet for a long moment, thinking, calculating. seeing the future branches, the paths this young man could take, the consequences of each choice. Tell me about your brother, not how he died, who he was when he was alive. Malcolm's eyes filled with tears. David was smart, really smart. Better than me at everything. Math, reading. He was supposed to go to college. First person in our family. He had a scholarship, full ride to Howard University. Was supposed to start in September. What happened? He got involved with the wrong people, started gambling, said he could make money, help the family. Our mother's sick, medical bills. We needed money. David thought he could win enough to help, but he kept losing, kept borrowing, got in deeper and deeper. By the time I found out he owed $5,000, might as well have been $5 million. We didn't have it. Did you try to help him? I went to the guys he owed, begged them, told them we'd pay. Just needed time. They said 2 weeks, then David disappeared. They found him 3 days later. Beaten so bad his face. I couldn't recognize him. Bumpy stood up slowly, his body protesting. The simple act of standing required effort now. He walked to his window, looked out at Harlem, his neighborhood, his home, the place he'd protected and controlled and fought for across 4 decades. I'm going to tell you something, Malcolm, and I want you to listen carefully, because I'm dying. I've got maybe 6 months, and these are probably the last important words I'll ever say to anyone. So listen. Malcolm nodded. Revenge won't bring your brother back. You know that intellectually, but you don't feel it yet. Right now, you think killing them will make you feel better. We'll balance something. We'll give David's death meaning. But it won't. You kill them, and you know what happens? You spend the rest of your life running, or in prison, or dead, because the Italians will come after you. They'll kill you. Kill your friends. Maybe kill your mother. That's how it works. Violence doesn't end. It multiplies. So I'm supposed to just let them get away with murdering my brother? No. I'm saying there are other ways to get justice. Better ways. Ways that don't end with your mother burying both her sons. What ways? Bumpy turned from the window, looked directly at Malcolm. I still have connections, people who owe me favors. I can make a phone call, arrange a meeting with the men who run East Harlem. We sit down. We talk. We find a solution that doesn't involve more blood. They killed David over $5,000. What solution could possibly exist? We make them pay. Not with their lives, with their money, with their reputation, with their standing in the community. We make them understand that killing a 17-year-old kid over gambling debt was bad business. We make them regret it, and we make sure it doesn't happen again. That's not justice. It's better than suicide, which is what you're proposing. You go after them, you die. That's certain, absolute. Your mother loses both sons. Your brother's death becomes meaningless because you threw your life away for nothing. Is that what David would want? You dead in an alley because you couldn't let go of rage? Malcolm was crying now, full sobs, the rage cracking, the grief underneath showing through. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to live with this. Every time I close my eyes, I see him. See what they did to him. How am I supposed to just move on? Bumpy sat back down. The standing had exhausted him. You don't move on. Not really. You learn to carry it. The grief, the anger, the loss. You carry it. But you don't let it destroy you. Don't let it turn you into someone your brother wouldn't recognize. David was supposed to go to Howard. First in your family. You said that meant everything to him. To your family. It did. So honor that. Live the life he can't. Go to school if you can. Work hard. Build something. Make your family proud. Make David's memory mean something beyond violence and revenge. That's how you honor the dead, not by joining them. The men who killed him, they just walk free? No, I'll handle it. Give me 2 days. I'll make some calls, arrange something. But you have to promise me something. What? You don't do anything until I contact you. No revenge, no confrontations. You stay home. You go to work. You take care of your mother. You let me handle this. Can you promise me that? Malcolm hesitated, the rage still there, still burning. But underneath it, exhaustion, relief, the burden of revenge being lifted, someone else taking responsibility, someone who understood this world better than he ever could. I promise. Good. Go home. I'll be in touch. After Malcolm left, Bumpy sat in his study for 20 minutes, thinking, planning. Then he picked up his phone, made 3 calls, quiet conversations, careful negotiations, calling in favors from men who owed him, who respected him, who would do this one last thing for Harlem's dying king. 2 days later, March 7th, 1968, Bumpy Johnson sat at a corner table in a restaurant on East 116th Street. Neutral territory, public enough to be safe, private enough to conduct business. 3 Italian men sat across from him. Made men, connected. The people who controlled East Harlem's numbers and gambling. The people whose street soldiers had killed David Wright. The conversation lasted 30 minutes. Bumpy explained the situation. A 17-year-old kid, college scholarship, future ahead of him, killed over $5,000 in gambling debt. Bad business, bad for everyone. The Italians argued. The kid knew the rules, knew the risks. Borrowed money he couldn't pay back. Actions have consequences. Bumpy didn't disagree. But he pointed out other consequences. Community anger, attention from police, reputation damage. Killing kids over small debts made them look like animals. Made the whole operation look unstable. Dangerous. Brought heat nobody wanted. What did Bumpy propose? Simple. The $5,000 David owed? Write it off. Dead debt. Can't collect from a corpse anyway. Make a donation to David's mother. $10,000. Call it compensation. Call it whatever. But make it right. And spread the word. No more killing over gambling debts under $10,000. Collect what you can. Write off what you can't. But don't kill kids. The Italians considered. This was Bumpy Johnson asking. A man they respected. A man who'd run Harlem for decades. Who'd fought them and negotiated with them and maintained peace when peace was profitable. A man who was dying. Who was asking for one final favor. One final act of respect. They agreed. $5,000 written off. $10,000 to the mother. New policy on small debts. Done. Bumpy had one more request. Malcolm Wright, the dead kid's brother. He was angry. Wanted revenge. Bumpy had talked him down. But the kid needed to hear from them directly. Needed to understand there would be no more violence. Needed closure. The Italians arranged a meeting. March 8th, Malcolm Wright came to the same restaurant, sat at the same table. The 3 Italian-made men sat across from him. Bumpy sat beside Malcolm, quiet, supportive, present. The Italian spoke, expressed regret about David, not apology. These men didn't apologize, but regret, acknowledgement. The situation had escalated beyond what was appropriate. The debt was forgiven. The family would receive compensation. This matter was closed. No further action would be taken against Malcolm or his family. One of them looked directly at Malcolm. Your brother made mistakes. Borrowed money he couldn't pay back. That's on him. But killing him was excessive. We understand that now. This won't happen again. The debt is gone. The compensation is real. You take care of your mother. You move forward with your life. This is finished." Malcolm wanted to rage, wanted to scream at these men who spoke about his brother's death like it was a business transaction. But Bumpy's hand on his shoulder, steady, calm, reminding him this was the best outcome, the only outcome where he survived, where his mother didn't bury both sons. "Thank you," Malcolm said. The words tasted like poison, but he said them. "I accept your terms." The meeting ended. Malcolm and Bumpy left together, walked 2 blocks in silence. Finally, Malcolm spoke. "That's it? They pay my mother money and everything's fine?" "No, everything's not fine. Your brother is still dead. That doesn't change. But you're alive. Your mother has money for medical bills. The men who killed David understand they made a mistake, and you don't have to throw your life away for revenge. That's what's fine. I still hate them. Good. Hate them. Remember what they did. Let that anger fuel you to be better, to build something, to become someone David would be proud of. But don't let it destroy you. Don't let it turn you into a killer, because that's a road with only one destination: prison or death. And I didn't save your life just so you could waste it." "You saved my life?" "Yes. When you came to my house asking for revenge, you were asking me to help you commit suicide, because that's what it would have been. You go after connected men, you die. I knew that. You didn't. So I gave you something better than revenge. I gave you a future." They reached Malcolm's building. He turned to Bumpy. "Why did you help me? You don't know me. Don't owe me anything." Bumpy smiled slightly. "Tired. Because I'm dying. And I want my last act to be creating life, not death. I've killed too many people in my time, hurt too many families. This was my chance to save someone instead, to use what's left of my influence for something good. You're alive because I'm dying, and wanted to do one decent thing before I go. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I don't know if I can ever repay. Don't repay me. Live. That's all I ask. Live a good life. Take care of your mother. Remember your brother. But live. Promise me. I promise." Bumpy Johnson died 4 months later, July 7th, 1968. Heart attack while playing cards with friends. He was 62 years old. His funeral was attended by thousands. Every important person in Harlem came to pay respects. Politicians, ministers, business owners, and criminals. So many criminals. The men who'd worked for him, learned from him, feared and loved him. Malcolm Wright stood in the back of the church, watching the service, thinking about that conversation in Bumpy's study, about the meeting with the Italians, about the fact that he was alive and breathing and standing in this church only because a dying gangster had decided to save him instead of enabling his revenge. After the service, people shared stories, tales of Bumpy's life, his fights, his victories, his protection of Harlem, his intelligence and strategy. Story after story about the legend who'd ruled Harlem for 40 years. An old man standing next to Malcolm turned and asked, "Did you know him?" "Yes. He saved my life." "How?" "I wanted revenge. He gave me wisdom instead. Taught me that living well is better than dying angry. I didn't understand at the time. I wanted him to help me kill. He helped me survive instead." The old man nodded. That was Bumpy. People think he was just a gangster, just a killer. But he was more than that. He understood that real power isn't just about who you can hurt. It's about who you can save. Sounds like you were one of the lucky ones. I was. Malcolm lived, worked hard, saved money, went to community college at night, got a degree, became a social worker, spent his career helping young men in Harlem, kids who were angry, violent, headed down the same path he'd almost taken. He told them the same thing Bumpy had told him. Revenge is expensive. Rage is easy. Living is hard, but worth it. He married, had children, told them about their Uncle David. The smart kid who made mistakes, who died too young, but also told them about Bumpy Johnson, the dying gangster who used his last months to save lives instead of taking them. In 2003, a journalist interviewed Malcolm for a book about Harlem in the 1960s, asked him about Bumpy Johnson, what he remembered most. Malcolm thought for a moment. He was dying. He had maybe 6 months to live. He could have spent that time settling scores, getting revenge on enemies, securing his legacy through fear. Instead, he spent it teaching, protecting, saving kids like me who were too stupid and angry to save ourselves. That's what I remember. Not the gangster, the teacher, the man who understood that his last act mattered more than all the violence that came before. Do you think he was a good man? I think he was a complicated man. He did terrible things, hurt people, killed people, but he also protected Harlem, provided for his community, and in his final months, he chose to create life instead of death. That counts for something, maybe everything. That's the story of March 5th, 1968, a young man asking a dying gangster for help getting revenge, and the dying gangster giving him something better, a future, a chance, a life. Bumpy Johnson could have enabled Malcolm's revenge, could have made the calls, arranged the meeting, helped him kill the men who'd killed his brother, could have given him exactly what he asked for, and Malcolm would have died within a week, killed by retaliation, another young black man dead in Harlem, another mother burying her child. Instead, Bumpy said, no, said there's a better way. Used his last months and his final influence to arrange peace instead of war, to teach wisdom instead of enabling violence, to save a life instead of ending one. 4 months later, Bumpy was dead, but Malcolm was alive, is still alive today, 77 years old, father, grandfather, social worker, community leader, living the life Bumpy gave him, the life his brother never got to live. That was Bumpy Johnson's final gift to Harlem. Not territory, not power, not fear, but life. One young man saved. One mother spared the pain of burying both sons. One future created instead of destroyed. Revenge won't bring your brother back, but dying for it will take you to him. 6 words from a dying gangster. Words that saved Malcolm Wright's life. Words he's repeated to hundreds of young men over the past 55 years. Young men standing where he stood, burning with rage, wanting blood, needing to hear what he needed to hear. There's another way, a better way, a way that honors the dead without joining them, a way forward that doesn't end in violence and graves and mothers crying over coffins. March 5th, 1968, the day Malcolm Wright asked for revenge and received wisdom instead. The day Bumpy Johnson's final lesson was taught. The day one life was saved because a dying man chose teaching over killing. That's legacy. That's what matters. Not the violence or the power or the fear, but the moments when we choose to save instead of destroy. When we give life instead of taking it. When we teach the next generation that survival is better than revenge. That living is harder than dying, but infinitely more valuable. Bumpy Johnson understood that. In his final months, in his last act, he understood that the best revenge against death is creating life, saving futures, teaching wisdom, being remembered not for who you killed, but for who you saved. Malcolm Wright lived. That was Bumpy's revenge against the world that had made him a killer. One life saved. one future created. One young man who got to grow old because a dying gangster said no to violence and yes to wisdom. That's the story. That's the lesson. That's Bumpy Johnson's final gift to Harlem.